Welcome back to Bestie Talk. I'm Krispin and
I'm CiCora Lee, and we are your favorite bestie duo.
Woo! Yay! So we've been talking a lot about dating, but today we're going to talk about breakups because that's a part of dating as well. And throw it out there, you can't break up with someone you're not exclusively dating, but then I guess that would be called a separation. Or
I don't know what that would be called, friend.
Yeah, like I just stopped talking to the person.
Yeah. And that happens.
Yeah, so what's your craziest breakup story?
Well, I don't really have crazy. I got one or two. So one of the most memorable breakups is this guy that I was dating. He got drafted into pro football, and he came and he asked me if I wanted to move with him, like me and my son. And I told him no.
Why'd you say
And because I didn't want to be with him. And so I was honest and I said no, because I kept thinking that me and my son's father would work out. But I was like, no. And when he walked away from me, I knew that he was done with me.
wow.
It didn't even have to be spoken almost. Like I knew when I told him no to us moving with him that it was pretty much over. And it was. And I had another breakup. I was really young, and my boyfriend at the time brought like some other chick to my place of work, and I threw a beer bottle at him.
Who
And
did he?
it was kind of the end of that.
Did the beer bottle make contact
With the ground? and y'all, that wasn't me as a grown, responsible adult.
Yeah.
I was probably under 21, I think, at the time.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's go back to that first situation.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So how long were you guys together before he asked you to move with him?
So we were on again, off again, because I was still trying to make things work with my son's with my son's father. And I would say maybe it had been like a year's time, but I wasn't consistent with him. So like I would be with him, and then all of a sudden I would break up with him whenever I thought my son's father was ready or like willing to change. But it was about a year.
Okay. So he was comfortable with asking you and a kid to move this to another state?
This was out the country. He was
Oh,
like
okay.
semi-pro. Yeah, so it would have been out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How
And
old
I
were you
said
at?
no. At that time, I had to have been maybe 20.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 20.
Mm.
I wasn't ready, because I remember, I think at the time I was going to Southern Miss. So I had to be somewhere around 20. Yeah, maybe 19, somewhere between 19 and 20, because I did my first year after high school. I went to college local in Grenada.
Mm.
But then the second year I went to Southern, and I think that was the year that he went semi-pro. So at about 20-ish. And
So
I
how
said
did
no.
that once y'all broke up?
Well, I didn't want to. So the thing was, I didn't want to be with him at the time. But like in my maybe mid-20s, I was interested, because I was like, ooh, I messed up. I kept thinking I fumbled a great person. And so we kind of did like the situationship thing at that point. I can't hear you, friend. I can't hear
Sorry, I
you.
had to mute. My kid was banging on my door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, y'all, life happens. This is a real podcast. Yeah, but that's understandable though. Like when I'm done with somebody, I'm done. I don't ever feel like, oh, I messed up. I regret that didn't work out. Because I really truly feel like people are seasonal. So I'm either with you to learn something. You're either a blessing or lesson.
Mhm.
One of the two. So I've either been blessed in some way by your presence or I learned a valuable lesson with being with you. So that's kind of my takeaways with breakups these days.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
what's your wildest breakup or most memorable breakup?
My most memorable one is the one that I write about in my book, Shattered Vows, Turn Relationship Pain into God's Purpose for Your Life. This is a book about breakups. If you guys don't know backstory, I was married and ended up getting a divorce. And when I tell you that breakup was dramatic, baby. That was a dramatic breakup. I didn't really know what happened as to why we were separating. All he kept saying was, "You aren't the person you say you are. You're putting on a facade. You're not the person you say you are." I was like, "Okay, so who am I? Like, what's the problem? What do you know all of a sudden?" He could never tell me. So he
Mhm.
texted me while I was at work one day. Well, back up. Probably like the day before, he had gone through like an old phone I had at the house. You know, when you log into your Apple ID, you get a notification on your current device saying that your Apple ID was accessed and it'll tell you from the location. The location was from our house. So I asked him about it. I was like, hey, were you trying to get into like my iCloud? And he lied and said no. I'm like, okay, cool. Cause like at this point, I know you're lying. And so he came back around. Yeah, I'm sorry I was. I just can't stop looking for stuff or whatever. Like, okay, cool.
Wow.
He ended up coming around that night talking about, let's do this Bible plan together, whatever, whatever. I'm thinking we're good. Like the next day, he gets up super early. I was always the one to leave the house first because I was working. He got up super early, I think talking to his mom or somebody on the phone and just left. He didn't say bye, didn't say where he was going, like just dipped. And when I get to work, that's how you know like how immature he was. I get a text with him saying, give me 30 days to find somewhere else to stay. And I'm like, well, if you want to leave, you got about 3 to 4 hours to get your stuff and get out because he moved into my home and I had a daughter at the time. So you weren't about to sit there and play in my daughter's face for a whole month, knowing
Mhm.
that you were ready to leave. So I asked my boss, her name was Becky. I was like, Becky, I got some stuff going on. I really need to leave work right now. So she was like, okay, I get it. I get home. I'm like, get your stuff and get out. Like it got real ghetto. When I tell you it got ghetto, he was taking too long. Don't take your time getting your stuff out my house, baby. Let me help you. I started throwing stuff out. I started throwing stuff at his car. Like I threw a Xbox or some gaming station like at his bed window. I did not plan to break it. I didn't think I threw it that hard, but it like shattered the back window and everything. Hence the name of the book, Shattered Vows. But I did come back and make that right. I ended up paying for that. Cool. But that led me to actually writing my book because a breakup is one thing, but a whole divorce was another. And that
Mhm.
happened on maybe like a Tuesday. And that Friday is when I found out that I was pregnant with our son. So that added an extra layer. I went back and forth, like, I don't even want this baby. I don't even want a baby by him because we're about to get divorced. But my mom was like, no, you're not going to do that. Go ahead and have the baby. I tell him about it. At first, it was cool. He's like, I'm going to do what I got to do as a dad, whatever. But like a few days later, he like switched it up. You did a good job at faking those papers to make it seem like you're pregnant. Him and
I
his,
remember that.
mhm. Him and his mother. His mother actually went to your late brother's job and was being messy with him, telling him that I was faking a pregnancy. Like now you putting kids
Yeah.
folks' business. But as we all know, my son is 5 years old and definitely was not fake he's here. But
Yeah.
I just really had to learn how to deal with breakups through that situation. And for me, it was writing, it was journaling, which produced my book that teaches and helps others to get over breakups. So if you guys are going through a breakup, check out my book, Shattered Vows by Kristen J. Watson.
So, if you don't mind me asking, like you said that writing and journaling really helped you. Um, how was it? Just getting the story out, or were you doing some type of, exercises to just get your feelings on paper? Tell me like a little bit about that. Like, tell us about it.
Yeah, I was actually going to therapy as well. So I booked a therapist for the first time in my life because that was the first time I actually felt like I needed help getting over this situation. But the writing, it was more so me getting it out and wanting other women to not feel what I felt and not go through what I went through. Because I was at the point I really wanted to unalive myself. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to have my baby. I wasn't eating, and the only thing that kept me going was the fact that I was pregnant. Like, the only reason I would eat some days was like, "Okay, I got a baby in my stomach. Let me eat. Let me not do anything to harm this innocent child, um, that I'm carrying." And another thing that really helped me was my daughter. She was 5 at the time, but she was always there. Like, I was crying a lot. She would just be right there beside me, hugging me, just laying in the bed beside me, just really being there. So it drew me closer to God and just made me want to help others because I never want any woman to feel what I felt when I was going through that. So write it down. I do have a journal you guys can order as well to help you get your thoughts out.
Wow, that's beautiful. Okay, so journaling and your family support, having
Mhm.
somebody there really helped you through the breakup. Like, what would you say to those people who may be ashamed or may not want to, um, I guess, be a part of a community or a close-knit family, family member or something like that? Like, what would you suggest to people who are going through a divorce? Like, do they need community? Can they do it alone? Is this something like what would you say to them?
You have to be very careful about the community because when you go through something and you tell your family and your friends, they're going to be on your side. Those are your ride or dies. If you versus the world, you did no wrong, screw the other person. And sometimes you need someone like my therapist, someone who didn't have a dog in the fight, someone to just keep it real with you and someone that wasn't going to take your side on it. But I will say before you get your family and your friends involved, make sure you are done with that person. Because the worst thing you can do is get to them, get the crying, telling them all the bad that this person has done to you, and then you end up right back with the person. So
In your words, yeah.
yes, make sure you're really done, but you definitely need a support system, a community during those times because it will get hard. Even like sometimes my family would just call me and just be on the phone with me just while I'm crying, like not saying nothing, just there. The day that that happened, the day that I put his stuff out, my family came that same day just to check on me and to make sure that I was good. So I wouldn't say hold it in, um, but just make sure you're really done before you get everybody else riled up in your mess.
So, like, a marriage is obviously way deeper than a regular man, woman, boyfriend, girlfriend type thing. How did you transition your day-to-day life? Like, what did that look like? Because prior to the divorce, you and your spouse were together every day. This is somebody you thought in your mind and in your heart that you would, have there daily. So, how did things transition in your day-to-day life? How did you deal with that change and, adapting to this new single mom life after divorce?
Well, it wasn't that much of a change for me because my daily routine was working, getting up, working, picking my kid up, going home, fixing dinner, doing it all over again. But I'm having to do that dealing with depression, dealing with, anxiety, dealing with suicidal thoughts. And honestly, we weren't together long enough for it to really change my day-to-day activities. So we got married, in this scenario that I'm speaking of, that happened a little after a month after we got married. Only for him to come back years later and just say, I'll be honest, I just wasn't ready to be married. And like, that's all you had to say. But you decided to play these mental games and make me feel like I was the problem when it was really you. But to answer the question, I didn't really have to change much of my day to day. I will say stay busy. Don't let yourself be isolated because that's when it gets worse. That's when the thoughts start setting in. And you don't want to have an idle mind when you're going through a breakup or something traumatic like that.
Mm. You said something that raised another question for me. You said that he came back years later and noted that he was the problem. So when you guys did go through the divorce, how did you start to process that? Like, did you do some introspective work to see, what you may have done? Like, was that ever a question? Was who caused this divorce? How did it come about? Did it make you reflect? And how did you benefit, like, from that? Like, after you said, okay, I did all that I could, and now how do I pick everything up? How did you benefit from having that type of reflection on yourself?
It kind of just made me more self-aware. So like I said, at first he was saying that I wasn't the person he said I was, just really made me kind of blame myself for what was going on. But you have to realize that some people are narcissists. Some people will gaslight you into believing that you are an issue when it's not really you, it's more so them. Um, and I think that just helped me be more aware, like in my situations with people now. Just like, let me be cautious with how I'm moving. Let me be cautious of the things that I'm saying to them, the emotions that I'm expressing with them, because I definitely don't want anyone to go back and use anything against me like it was done in the past. But one thing you have to be okay with not getting closure from people, because that can be a challenge. A lot of people always want to know, why did it happen? Why not me? Why didn't it work out? You have to be okay with not having closure.
Mhm.
Just accepting that that's not what God wanted for you and to just let it go.
And I think too, in breakups, we also have to be mindful, when things don't work out, that people can only give you what they have, and
Mm,
that's it.
That's
So like you said, just you probably won't get that closure because that person they may not have it in them to be able to, like, say, hey, I really didn't want to get married, or hey, I really don't think this relationship is working. You're just gonna have to, that's something to keep in mind. It's like people can't give you what they don't have.
that's a good one. And you can't
Yeah.
let a breakup break you.
Woo!
Break up, upgrade through the
Yeah.
break.
Oh, I love that. Break up. Okay. I love that.
Go up.
Yes, absolutely.
Because a lot of breakups will kill your self-esteem. It'll, just kill you on the inside. But you
Mhm.
can't let it do that. Like, you have to be okay with letting people go. Like, you have to
Oh,
learn
yeah.
to detach. And if it doesn't work out, I'm sorry. You might love them, you might have liked them real bad, but you have to be okay with trusting God and knowing that He has better for you out there. Because sometimes the things we think we want, God has so much better.
Whew. That'll preach. That will preach. Oh my gosh. Like it especially like if you, because we're biased, right? Usually the things we desire, we think, oh, this is the absolute best thing. But usually it's not. Like if you were to go back and just look at the things or the people you've dated and the situations that have dissolved, whether they ghosted you or whatever, like if you were to see them now, it was actually a blessing that it didn't work, you
Every
know?
time.
Mm-hmm.
It's God. No, He pulled me out of some situations I wasn't supposed to be in.
And he knows our hearts. So we just have to trust like the journey. What I find is God always places me where I need to be. And so
Mm,
I'm real, like at this point in my life, if God is removing something or closing a door or ending a chapter, it's like, okay, let's do it. Because I know that what I'm going into is going to be greater and so much better than anything that I've had in the past. Like usually when I detach from people or when the relationship has ended, it's a blessing. Like it gives God room to give me more, like more of what I need for who I am and for where I'm going. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that person or that that person won't be blessed. It just means that our journey, our time has ended,
mm.
whatever the case was, that person's time with me has expired. And I find that like whenever I try to hang on to relationships that have expired, that's the worst.
Mm,
Like it's
mhm.
the worst because that person doesn't see the transform you. They see the you that they've always known, like the common you. And so I don't think a breakup is a bad thing. It could be like, a point of growth and renewal and starting over.
Absolutely. Breakups are a blessing sometimes.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's God protecting you from what you think you wanted, um, protecting you from hurt in the long run. And it hurts. Like I get it. It's gonna hurt. It's okay to cry. Um, but you really have to get to a point where you're like, okay, I've cried about it long enough. Let me heal from it.
Right.
Let me get over it. Let me heal. Let me find other things to focus on instead
Hmm.
of this person that hurt me. Because a lot of times they're not over there crying. They're over there living their best life. They're
Big living.
big living, big chilling, moved on, and you over there crying a river,
Sick as a dog.
losing weight. Now that's the best thing that comes out of breakups. Now that little weight you lose, that little weight you lose because you sick and not eating, that's the best thing that comes out of breakup.
Oh my gosh.
Them 10, them 5, 10 pounds. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the weight loss is a win.
It is. But you can't get so attached to a person. Like I'll never get so attached to a person like I did before to where I want to self-harm myself. Because I feel like I'm not worthy or because I'm embarrassed because everybody knows, you and this person broke up. So that's why you gotta be cautious about posting these people on the internet. Because
Don't post the good times now.
hey,
Don't. Yeah, make
you
sure
gotta be
you gotta
okay
make
with
sure.
that. You gotta be okay with that. So
What the old folks say, you gotta be sure. You
you
gotta
gotta
make
know.
sure. You gotta make sure that they not embarrassing you
Mhm.
and that y'all gonna be something.
Something, and you gotta be okay with people knowing that y'all are nothing if it don't work out. So that's like a risk
Yeah.
to take when you publicly announce a relationship.
What that sounds like to me is it goes back to like the foundation of something we've discussed before. Basically, whenever you get into a relationship, you want to go in as a whole person. Like,
Mhm.
even though you're in a relationship, you're growing together, you still have to know where that person is and where you begin, or where you end and where they begin. Because if they were to live your life, you still are going to have to live your life as a whole person, you know? And to
Yeah.
stay whole, you're just gonna have to find that balance. Like, don't I guess it is grieving, I guess it would be considered grieving if you were married and then go through a divorce. But for those, like right now, I haven't been married before. So for people who are in like a similar situation where you're just dating and it's like boyfriend and girlfriend, you still need to be building you because technically you're still single. So like you should still be working on your physical self, your mental self, your financial self, your own relationships, because y'all haven't merged like that. So I
Mhm.
could see where a breakup after a divorce would be like a lot deeper in comparison to like, just your regular breakup. So that being said, ladies, and men, if you are not married and you go through a breakup, you got 48 hours to cry to your best friend.
See, 2 days.
Because
After
it's 8 billion people. It is 8 billion people in this world. And it's
that,
like, if it's over, okay, next. It's
mhm.
always one coming. Just keep going.
We crying for 48 hours and then we're focusing on healing.
Exactly.
We're focusing on moving on. What did you learn from this? And you
Level up.
mm-hmm.
Level up. Change something about yourself, whether it's your hair
Mm-hmm.
or something. Change
Start a
something.
business. Like every breakup I've gone through, like I've leveled up like myself afterwards. So
As you should.
yeah, and you have to realize like you were living and you were good before you met this person. So what makes you think life is not going to be okay without them? I think a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it, I fear change. I don't like change. It makes me uncomfortable.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I go through a breakup, that's change. I have to adjust to, okay, I went from talking to this person every day to not talking to this person at all. So you have to be okay with those changes. Don't get idle. Do not get idle because your mind can be your worst enemy sometimes.
That's the big one.
Mm-hmm.
We're always hard on ourselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people will play in your head, so just be cautious of that.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been like really, really good. Oh
Well,
wow. I
that's
feel
just one breakup. Woo.
like okay. What's your second breakup? Give it like another breakup.
Another breakup, I was dating this guy, and he was in the street pharmaceutical industry.
Can you
So,
explain what they do in the street pharmaceutical industry?
drug dealer. Y'all know what he is. He was into street pharmaceuticals. So he would deal these narcotics. And Lord, please don't let the FBI hone in on me.
You
But
better edit this one and leave it in street pharmaceuticals.
yeah, so he had this old Caucasian woman that would buy this particular drug from him. It rhymes with whack. So
Like Whitney used to say, I ain't gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
So yes, but mind you, this was a person working in a hospital. She was an RN. I've watched this woman come out of the hospital on her shift, come to the car, smoke some crack, and then walk back in there. And like one day I looked at her name tag and she saw me looking at it and she tried to turn it over. I'm like, nah, Mary Carol, I see you. And you better hope I don't turn you in behind this. But long story short, I ended up looking through his phone one day and there was a video of her performing a sexual act on him in exchange for drugs. And I was like, this is the most ghetto shit ever. Like, let me get out of this. Like, yeah, no. So yeah.
Wow. I remember that person. And I just want to say
Mhm.
that as the bestie, I definitely did not agree with this guy. Like, y'all, I used to hang around my best friend and hate every minute of being with him. But I was still right there with my best friend. And I'm like, I don't really like him. Didn't really care for him. It was just, he just had like bad energy. The
Mhm.
folks around him had bad energy. It was
Mhm.
bad. So I would say to save yourself from going through a breakup, listen to your friends. I'm
Yeah.
not saying put your friends in your business, but for those people that are super close to you, they care about you and they are
Yeah.
going to look at situations at face value, which is going to be completely different from how you look at them. If you are considering, being serious with somebody, run that person by your loved ones, they're gonna be able to see how they treat you, how you respond to them, and the impact that they have on your life in a way that you aren't necessarily aware of, so I think that's important.
And get your head out the clouds. Um, because when you that's a tough conversation, like, telling someone you really care about, like, hey friend, I don't think, that's the one. You may need to, look at that a little more closely. Because when you're in love, people tend to put their guard up and get defensive when it comes to their partner.
Mhm.
But you have to know that these people are coming from a good place. Like, it's not any malicious intent, it's not any jealousy. They truly care about you and they
Yeah,
want to see you do your best and be with the best person that you could be with.
yeah.
Hmm.
What's another way do you think people could save themselves from going through a breakup?
Pay attention
Like,
to the red flags early on. Stop acting like you at a carnival. Pay attention to the red.
watching the show. I'm
Right.
not gonna lie. Sometimes I watch the show. I
Me
just
too.
let 'em-
I
I
love me
watch them dance.
screaming now.
I watch them dance.
Me too. I'll
When
see
I
how
know,
far it'll go, but it's beat me in the long run.
oh,
But now I'm at the age where, like, now if it's a red flag, I may still entertain it just to see what I can get out of it. How can this be beneficial to me? What them coins looking like. But I put it in my mind, like, okay, that this isn't anyone you're gonna be with long term. This isn't anyone that you want to see yourself married to. This isn't the person you want to see your kids call their bonus dad. So,
right.
categorize it for what it is.
And if you're one of those ladies who I get it, you want to go all in, be head over heels, you got to pay attention to the red flags.
Mhm.
Okay. For those of us who are able to separate, like Crispin said, and you see what you get, you can watch them dance. You can watch the clown act. But if you know you can't handle that, don't continue the
Stay
show.
still. Stay
Take
this.
your popcorn and your chair. You go elsewhere because you're not gonna be able to hit. That's gonna be a breakup waiting to happen.
You're playing a dangerous game. Just know that.
Mhm. Yep. Because if a man is not committed to like the relationship, it's really not going anywhere.
Mm-mm.
And no matter how bad you want it to,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be destined for a breakup in the end if he's not giving you his best and fully committed. It's just gonna end up to you being hurt and being back at square one, if not below. So yeah, we're definitely not telling you to entertain them when you see red flags.
Yeah. Don't do
Mhm.
it unless you got the heart for it.
But is they having a heart for it? Or
You
unless you can handle it.
you gotta have some thick skin for that. So
Yeah.
brace
Wow.
yourself. Know what you're getting into. Don't
Wow.
think a person is showing you red flags and you're like, oh well, I can change them. Mm-mm.
You
Hey,
cannot.
gentleman.
You
Hey,
can only God controls the hearts of kings.
that's it. And
Only
somebody
God.
kings, they're peasants. So keep that in mind.
Oh.
Yeah, so definitely share with us your craziest breakup story. We would love to hear about it and love to discuss it.
All right, you guys, this has been real.
And
don't forget to break up. If you break up, always level up.
Period.
Bye, you guys.